the tipping point, accelerating Africa's agenda, essentially was inspired by Malcolm Gladwell's book, The Tipping Point, where he talks about small ideas essentially changing industries. So the inspiration behind this was, let's bring people together, get them inspired, and get them talking about conversations that could eventually lead to tipping points and new ideas that will transform industries in the future, and essentially help to accelerate Africa's growth.
So welcome to the Stirring Africa Conference, and good afternoon to all of you. We're really, really elated to have you here. The theme of this year's forum is the tipping point, accelerating Africa's agenda. And this afternoon, you're going to hear from three really distinguished keynote speakers who will discuss, in a high-velocity format, their thoughts regarding several areas, including social entrepreneurship, the journey of the entrepreneur, and the energy landscape in Africa.
I mentioned that my dad had kind of carried us to all these places. My dad passed away when I was 18. And at his funeral, I kept hearing all of these beautiful stories of things that he had done for other people. People that he had put through school, his students from University of Liberia, from Stanford, from Marquette. And I kept thinking, I don't know that I can live my whole life without going back to Liberia and making some type of impact. This is almost like my legacy. What I'll say is that right away, when we would tell people that we wanted to go and start this factory in Liberia, they would kind of look at us like, have you been to Liberia? Do you understand the people? Do you understand that people don't come to work on time? Do you understand that people aren't really motivated in the way that they will be in a Chinese factory, and so on? And what we found really, really early on was that that was not true whatsoever. That these were just biases that we had that were obviously not evidenced by the actual Liberian people. Not only do our workers come on time, they come an hour early. They designed it themselves, where Christian Muslim women come an hour early, they pray and sing together before they get on the machines. And so at the end of the day, people are hungry for opportunity. We have workers, not all of them, but we have workers that from both a quality and a productivity standpoint, we could pop into some of the highest performing factories in China and they would work. But I do think that we spend a lot of time investing in that. We spend a lot of time in alignment also talking about the broader vision so that they were bought into that vision also. It wasn't just like, management needs you to hit your numbers, here's your daily pay. No, we actually told them what could happen for themselves, for their families, and our communities if we could make this something big. So movement building, I think, was absolutely the key.
Right now, it's such a fascinating time to be alive and to do business because we are in the economy of generosity, the economy of sharing. And that is what, for me, it's all about. And that is exactly what I'm really passionate about to work in Africa and the continent, because most of the millennials that I get the chance to meet, when they go to business, they have a purpose. They really believe in social responsibility. And that is in the DNA of this generation, mostly the millennials. They don't go to business only to make money or to just make a job because you could create your own employment. They always have a purpose. That has been also my DNA, is to always follow a purpose. I realized that there is two reasons why people go to business. One is because you want to fulfill people's dreams and you create beautiful products that people could love, or to just remove people's frustration. A lot of businesses start by that. By, for example, if you could not eat gluten and you create a gluten-free product, you're removing people's frustration. So that's, for me, the two reasons why people go to business. And that's the reason why I realized through my journey that what I really wanted to do is to be a dream factory. Because when someone wants to go to a different market and conquer that market, you go with them. And that was great. And another thing that we like is to build leadership. Because a leader only could really create a leadership when you really grow the people. So So that's really what we do in BBBS. When people come to us and they're looking for personal branding because they want to be relevant in the world, we are there for them. When somebody says, I want to see my product here, we have that vision and we make sure that we work with this person and the person is in that market. So that's really what we love to do. I think I realized very early in life because when I was living in Spain, everybody see me like a foreigner, even if I was born there. Because I was the black kid in each class, in the university, the only one, in jobs. So I have two options. Or I make myself different, or I make myself special. So you choose.
What is the tipping point towards Africa's agenda? And first of all, what is Africa's agenda? To me, it is Africa's prosperity, which I try to simplify into say sustainable jobs. How do we create sustainable jobs over time? We need to be able to have a paradigm shift on the innovation that we have on the ground. So there's this problem with the fringe and the mainstream. There's a big confusion in Africa. And what do I mean by that? You know, you start going around and I see all these NGOs saying, oh, we're helping the bottom of the pyramid, or you know, it's just, you're looked at as kind of a fringe investment if you're looking at the bottom of the pyramid. We have a different name for the bottom of the pyramid in Africa. That is the supermajority. I mean, nobody calls them, if you're treating your supermajority, your largest base of customers, 95% plus of your population, as a fringe community that needs to be supported by, you know, sustainable businesses or by the NGOs. There's no way you're going to grow at all. So you have to start innovating. Why is it hard to innovate for the bottom of the pyramid? Because they have limitations. If you're going to work in Africa, you have to work for the majority. Labeling them as the bottom of the pyramid that has to be serviced by something else is not going to work. And if we have to face the facts, and if we have to address the infrastructure problems and the governance problem in order to open that up, then that's what we have to do. We are so rich in resources that we are not sharing between each other. So for example, you know, you go to Mozambique, there's a huge amount of coal. And I'm the renewable energy guy, but at the end of the day, like, if it really makes sense, you have to use all kinds of resources to be able to develop. There's so much oil in the continent, there's so much done. It's just, the numbers are endless. But the best way to leverage them is not necessarily to say, hey, you know, I could borrow money from that, but it's the way is to force development to happen so that a lot of the jobs will also come in there. And a lot of the consumer, you know, you see this sad thing where a lot of our raw materials are taken in, reprocessed, and coming back. But the reason that they're not being reprocessed in country is, again, infrastructure. So, and the infrastructure, there are so many investors that are desperate to come in if and only if they could see that predictability. And there are countries that have allowed many to see this stability and predictability, and the minute they did that, we have seen this investment come in.
You can't just take what is classified as venture capital, Western Europe or on the West Coast, and apply that to this market. It just doesn't work. The value of depth, as they tend to call it on the West Coast, is so big that when you make an investment, you've got to double down, triple down, quadruple down. You basically got to fund that investment through its life cycle, from seed stage to C+, A, B, C, all the way to the institutional investor. And if you as an investor aren't capable of doing that through your structure, then you can't actually provide the support to the company that actually needs to survive. That's the challenge and opportunity.
Understand the motivations of who is going to be the customer. And if you don't have money, you can go and talk to the people who are going to be consuming whatever it is you want to support. So that's a concrete way of participating in the PE space without spending your own money. Another way is if you have a particular skill set, law, business, Excel, you can contact the company and ask to advise and support. And actually, before you write a check, I think that's one of the best ways to get involved and offer your value, offer your assistance, and get to understand what the mission and the vision of that company is. Because if you are not aligned, you don't support that vision and mission, or you don't understand it, at some point it's going to get really difficult, and you're going to have to add value. And that's one of the key elements of being a venture capitalist. You're not just writing a check. It's not just check, good luck. No, now you're in a partnership, and that means looking for role players, looking for people to support, and looking for mentors. Like, these are, like, because you are now in their success is your success, you want to bring in people, support that's going to help them get along and help them get to that level that you need, that you're envisioning for them. So I think I talked about using your skills, being an advisor, and then obviously you can write checks, but there's some limits on what you can do based on sort of in the U.S. securities laws. So if you're not an accredited investor, there are limits on how you can participate. But you can do it without money as well.
People are finally getting like, oh wow, there's 1 billion people over there. We're not even selling to them. We're not even thinking about this entire market. How do we develop not just the product but also the distribution mechanisms?
It's great that people are consuming this media, but I don't know if it's making an impression of what they think of Africans or Africans. I think either there's still a disconnect. They're still thinking of safaris and all these other things and consuming the music. And I think of it the way I think about hip hop here. Like, a ton of people who are not black consume hip hop in America. It does not change of how they think of black people. Yeah, I'm not sure that, I think it's done something for our perception of ourselves, but outside, I'm skeptical that it's improved.
So the question is, what will it be for you? What is the one small thing that you can do to create a ripple effect? Well, if you don't know what to do, I have 3 suggestions. 1, connect. The one thing that I like about these conferences the most is that you are around some of the most passionate people. I mean, after all, it's a beautiful day in New York City. We don't have many left. Winter is coming. But instead, everyone is here, passionate. I mean, you can even tell by the questions that people are asking. People know their stuff here. And as you continue to go to not only this conference and others, you will start to see some of the same faces. You will become like family. Next, create. In addition to that passion, we have some of the most innovative people in this room. People who have found creative solutions to help us not only here, but back in the continent. So keep creating. And 3, invest. When I say invest, it's not only about money. It's about time. It's about knowledge. It's about resources. It's about saying, hey, I can't help you, but I know someone that can. And so, which one will you do? Even if you can't do all 3, even if you can just do one, together we will start the ripple effect that will create the wave that will accelerate Africa's agenda.